is now ordering masks to be worn in public and also in the casinos. And Walt Disney has announced that they're going to delay its California Disneyland past July 17th. So that's why the market is saying, well, the market wants us to kind of look like coronavirus is like a flu. Yes, we have cases, hopefully we'll get a vaccine, but it doesn't really dampen economic activity. The market only cares if it's dampening economic activity, and unfortunately, um, it is beginning to start doing that again. So I think that's why you're getting the sell off uh, the last couple of days here. And Kevin, as you mentioned, initial claims weren't very good, were they?
No, came through, yet again at a higher number than anticipated. I think I saw what was it, 1.68 million versus
Yeah, no,
expectation.
1.48 million versus the consensus of 1.2.
Okay.
Now, little good news, continuing claims did drop by 767,000 to
There are
19.5
some
million, but
other
still,
currents
that's
underneath the
19 and a
surface
half
right now,
million
whether it's
people
trade
getting
risk.
unemployment benefits. So,
Yeah.
uh, and also, if they are going to delay some of these reopening things, that'll make this worse, unfortunately.
Well, we've
Uh,
seen some of those already. We know we've had, Apple's already not delayed, they've closed additional stores, right?
yeah,
I think we saw Disney's delaying their open now.
yep,
Yeah, things are not exactly on the upswing, unfortunately.
yeah. You said it perfectly there. Other news, durable goods orders for May increased 15.8%. That was actually better than the consensus. The key takeaway is that, yes, activity did rebound in May sequentially from April, but we're still 13.6% lower in durable good orders than we were a year ago.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so big uptick month over month, but still depressed activity. We had the third estimate of Q1 GDP was unchanged at -5%. The market does not care since it's dated. Uh, the advanced international trade in goods deficit widened to 74.3 billion. What I found interesting was that U.S. exports sank to the lowest level in 10 years, and imports also dropped uh, as there's a less demand for goods, and there's also upsets in supply chains. Also keep in mind today we get the stress test results. So 34 big banks are being evaluated both for their capital situation. Also, they're going to do coronavirus testing. I don't know exactly how they do that, but the bottom line, it's not going to come out till after the market, 4:30 p.m. Eastern. So you got to watch to see if any of the banks have to cut their dividends or any of that. So that's all I got as far as general news. We can go on to
Okay.
stocks in the news.
Sounds good to me. Let's do it. Where to begin this morning, sir?
Uh, Accenture, ACM. Ah,
I
is
like
that
that move.
yeah? Is that taking out the high in February?
Rick? Yes, intraday.
Intraday, so we'll have to see if it can close above there. But they did beat by 5 cents. Revenue was also above expectations. Um, they said their results were boosted by its digital and cloud service consulting business, which speaks to the narrative we've seen the cloud stocks and all of that. So I think they're
Hmm.
riding that wave along with everybody else. So I don't know. What do you do here? Right? I mean, obviously gapped up, but you got the resistance. We'll have to see if we can start making progress above the previous high here.
Yeah, I'd like to see how the day finishes out, of course, and see if you get a close that's near the top of the day.
Hmm.
as opposed to giving back any, towards the move of the gap breakout point here, right around 211 or so.
Yeah, so I think since we gave up as soon as we hit that high intraday, you might want to watch this one. Yeah. Okay, next, Darden Restaurants, DRI.
Mm,
I guess it's better than a DUI. Um, so
most of the time.
most of the time.
Oh,
Uh,
what
yeah,
happened early? That's the same chart. Hang on. I thought I had
yeah,
it on there. Oh, I think I must have hit my roller on
yeah.
my
I didn't think that the news I'm going to give you on Darden would cause a rally to an
Probably not.
let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Uh, so the parent of they own Olive Garden, among others. They
Hmm.
lost $1.24 a share. It was smaller than what analysts were predicting. Revenue was in line with expectations, but they had same location sales of a decline of 47.7%, and 91% of its dining rooms across all its brands are open, but they have limited capacity. So,
I mean, 91% is a good number, but did they define limited capacity?
no,
Mm.
not that I saw.
I have to assume they're adhering to social distancing requirements most cases. The thing that stands out to me on this chart is the 20-day overhead. So
Yeah,
clearly resistant,
yeah.
and it's starting to curl lower like this. I yeah, this is, depending on your thoughts on the restaurant group, I'm not too enthused by what I see on this chart here.
No, I agree. All right, FactSet, we quote their data all the time, FDS. So, you know, financial information firm, nice move higher. That is a
Nice
new high.
tail.
So we go to the weekly on that.
Okay, I was going to check out that
Yeah,
tail to see. Yeah, I had a
uh,
nice, good gap open and still holding the tail like that.
yeah,
Lovely chart. Um,
yeah,
well,
new high.
definitely breaking out.
Okay, they beat on earnings by quite a bit, 286 versus 243. Their revenue, though, was a little shy of forecast, but they did say the quarter was all in all very strong, despite obviously challenging circumstances, quote unquote. So it looks like they bought up that dip.
Yeah, they sure did. I wonder if that's the 10-day at the bottom. Nope, not
Hmm.
quite. But looks nice. That's a good interesting bottom when you got a nice long tail like that.
Yeah, so
And
there
they
you
bought
go.
up.
Okay, Rite Aid, RAD.
Oh, it's an interesting chart now.
Yes, they lost money, but not nearly to the extent that was predicted by analysts. So analysts thought they were going to lose 38 cents per share. They only lost 4%. Also, their revenue beat expectations, and actually their same store sales in at least their retail pharmacy segment rose 6.6, but they did withdraw guidance.
Interesting breakout of this
Yes.
descending triangle here, Lee.
Yeah.
So it's nice high because it took out this peak already.
Right.
RSI confirmation here as well with this move. This is starting to resemble an interesting opportunity. I mean, a 25% move, you'd like to think it would.
Yeah.
Put it on a watch list, perhaps.
Yeah. Okay. Here is an issue, though.
Okay.
KB Homes.
Ah, I saw yesterday there was a lot of speculation on their upside opportunity since home builders were doing so well, but it didn't look
Yeah,
favorably on the
no,
operators, did it?
no, this is going to impact a lot of the other ones are down in sympathy with this too. We'll take a look at the XHB, but
Hmm.
they did beat estimates by 6 cents, but they missed revenue by quite a bit. Sales were down 11%, deliveries fell 10%, But the thing that really croaked the stock here was net new orders plunged 57%,
Well,
which kind of is interesting because I mean, the other housing data that we've had over the last couple of weeks is stronger than that. So,
hmm that is interesting. Wonder what kind of additional context there is for that. But I'll say this: if you've been waiting on an opportunity, at least you're testing the 50-day, so you've got a chance. I guess you can put together an order here that has a nice tight stop and probably feel all right about it. But that's assuming
yeah,
you've been waiting.
right. Yeah. True. On the bullish side, you are getting a little bit of a setup,
hmm
definitely. Yep. Okay. Uh, Tesla, not that the news is earth shattering by any means, but at least we can
hmm
look at the chart what is in the news. So not holding the 10-day at the moment. Where's the 20 on this one?
Bet it's right below.
There we
Nailed it,
go.
Lee. Look at that.
Yeah, look at that. Technical analysis is all voodoo.
Yep.
Well, maybe it isn't. All the time anyway. So, you're getting a little pullback to a support in an uptrending stock. Typically, that's a possible trade setup with the stop under
Yeah.
the low.
Yeah, it's a spot where trend traders would look to, maybe initiate a first position. If you've been waiting and trying to play that 20-day moving average, which has been held since late March, that's pretty good. It's a pretty interesting ledge. And if you're always looking for your best opportunity to enter, you got to take some chances periodically. So if you like the 20, you're getting your shot. Stop in the range of the day low here. Alternatively, you could just sit on your hands and see if the 50-day comes into play or if they start to buy it up first. Many traders would be a little bit patient, get some signal or indication that they're trying to buy this up at this level, and would then look to start initiating position. One benefit to that approach, Lee, in this case, is you've got a stock that likes to move, so
Yeah,
you can do okay by even being patient.
right. So I think to your point, Kevin, traders looking to enter would like to see a tail start forming at that 20
Sure.
day before you buy it. Okay. Let's see. The news was not much though. They're planning a battery research and manufacturing facility out here in Fremont, California. Okay. Facebook.
Okay.
That's the
Hmm.
finding it'll support at 20. It's flattening though.
Yep.
Um, anyway, the news here is that the target on this was raised at Baird and Company, um, to $300, which is the highest target on the street right now. Their previous target was 240.
That's a
Uh,
good increase.
yeah, they say that they are betting on a big anticipated comeback in digital ads.
All right.
Now, see,
Yeah,
it's
this
beginning to form a tail there on the 20. That's what
it
you
is. Yeah, it
This is
hit the
what you want to
20. It
see
looks
more on
like
Tesla. Yeah.
233. The only thing that stood out to me though, Lee, is that I don't like what I'm seeing there on the RSI, which doesn't look all that fantastic. So, if I was to see, volume today is light by about 30%, which is a little bit interesting given the news. One might have assumed you'd get a little enthusiasm
Yeah.
behind that.
Looks to
Um,
be like intraday, your signal would be if you break out of this range, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. There's a good
One way or
support
the
down
other.
here.
Yeah,
Tagged that low though, Lee, right on it, and then just bought it up to this point. Now, you take out the pivot and this peak from yesterday here, you're gonna start to feel a little bit better. But I think you just eyeball that pivot and see if the pivot gets not only captured but held for today.
absolutely. All right. Let's see. Uh, Caesars, CZR.
Okay. Mm. Right on the 20 again.
Yeah, a
This
little
looks
bit
more
of
like a. I'm thinking this is more range boundly.
yeah, at least in the short term it is.
Yeah.
Is it forming a double? You could say, is it forming a double top too?
Certainly possible.
That would only trigger if you take out the lows of those two
Right
candles in the
here.
middle there. Yeah,
Right about 11 or so.
yeah. Um, anyway, the news here is they are requiring face masks at all of their properties.
All right. And so the thought being that might dissuade some people, perhaps.
Yes. Um, all right, let's look at McKesson, MKC.
Okay. McKesson or McCormick?
Oh, what did I say? I'm a McCormick, I guess.
Well,
MKC, right?
yeah, McCormick is MKC and McKesson is MCK.
Yeah, so it is MKC.
Okay.
Yeah, McCormick. So you don't want to mix your spices with your drugs.
I
Okay.
guess not.
Anyway, they had an okay report. They beat earnings by 31 cents. They did have stronger sales. It would have been a triple play, except they didn't give any guidance. Looks like it ran up to the high and got sold off.
Sure did. That's a not the ideal scenario there, Lee, where you get out to that upper level and then it gets thrown back in. Let's see what it looks like on the 5-minute bar. So hot start up to 180 and change, 180 and a half. Retreat, even came back and tested R1, trying hard to hold R2. That's what we want to look at is does it maintain R2 today?
Yeah.
You don't want to see that get thrown back underneath and hang below R2 given the action it saw to start off.
All right, let's look at some stocks with analyst action here.
Sure.
Boeing.
This chart, well, they're well off the bottom here today, Lee, but it's still below the 20. I
Yeah.
don't know about you, but this looks, I'm not even sure I like the support line anymore. It's a fairly
It's more
minor
of a
support, I
range.
would
Yeah,
say. Yeah,
minor support.
this looks like it's just dying to get to the 50-day, though, me. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the news was they were downgraded at Berenberg to a sell. Hardly ever see
That's not a
sells.
positive.
No, you hardly ever see sells,
No.
Okay. We already
You know
talked
what
about, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Lee. I was just going to say the one thing that I would be interested in would be a little bit of a Fibonacci move here off of that bottom, given that it's thrown itself back here below the 20-day. I wonder if that coincides with an important ledge. Oh, now, see, look at that.
So it could definitely drift down to the,
Gosh, yeah, even into that 160 range here would be an appropriate spot to test. There's nothing, it's kind of in a vacuum space right here. It makes you wonder if the rally off the bottom is sustainable today. If it is, that'd be amazing because that tells you that the shorter term traders are more than are expecting it to continue this trend that's been in place since the bottom in mid-May. You know, that would be really great to see, especially if it was able to recapture in the short term that 20-day right up above us.
yeah, but if you fail here and take out the that red candle back there in the middle of June, then you wouldn't be making higher highs and higher lows anymore. You'd have a lower
That would
low.
be a concern.
So I think that's the key level to keep your eye on. Right there was that
Well, let's
165
give it
ish.
to the low here,
Yeah.
166.01.
Yeah. So I think that is a key level from a trend perspective on that one. So I mean,
I'll agree.
if you think they're going to turn around, I mean, as long as it holds that, maybe getting an opportunity. Okay, we talked about KBH, but based on the data that we just went over, Evercore downgraded them to market perform from outperform. Okay, Wedbush came out and reiterated their buy on Apple. Hmm, what can you say? I saw research. Just forget the company, so don't get old. But I just forget the company that said that they see at the end of 2021 a $2 trillion market cap on this. You believe that? I don't.
Big number.
Yeah, I just can't remember who said it. Where's the 10 on this one?
Let's see.
Aha!
Almost as sound as the 20. I mean, the
Yeah,
20 hasn't even come into play. The 10 has been fantastic.
yeah. Um,
Can't argue with what you're seeing there.
yeah, it's the apple of my eye. Okay, let's go to Docu. Let's go to DocuSign. You'll see one of these stay-at-home type stocks.
Speak of the 10-day.
Ah, lovely pullback to the 10-day. Anyway, they were initiated at Oppenheimer with Outperform.
Getting a chance to join the party if you've been waiting.
Yep,
Tight stop.
yep.
Good looking chart.
Good looking chart. All right, we had a couple questions come in on the Market Edge tool. They have the homepage. What is CTI? That is their cyclical trend index. Um, I know the guys at Market Edge. It's based on their feeling that markets have cycles. So they have, I believe, 5 cycles of different lengths that they add together to see what the net push is. So over 0 is cyclically positive, under 0 is cyclically negative. Okay, the next one. Can you buy slices through Street Smart Edge? No, you got to do it on the
No.
website.
Website or the app. You can use the Schwab app actually as well.
That's true. You can use the mobile app. Absolutely. All right. Well, I'm done. I'm going to turn it over to you to the index analyses.
Well, let's see what's going on with the S&P as we rally off of our bottom here, Lee. We came down and tagged that 200-day right on the money. Pretty good day to eyeball the 200 given that test. The 200 today is 3,020. Our low today is 3,024. So we did miss it by a few points. RSI currently holding up. It's exactly where you'd expect it to be, testing that midpoint, the 50 line on the RSI, a spot where many traders would say any pullback in the current trend would be looking to cease. So you're kind of getting a nice bit of data in here and price action to kind of validate the opportunity. I'd like to look at it on a 5-minute chart and check it out with the spiders as well, so we could take a peek at volume. But already, at least to start the day, you're getting the kind of action you'd be looking for. Weakness to get us going off the open. We get that bought up. Volume is up a little bit. You're up about 20+%. Notice the blue line pulling away a little. Actually, what's interesting, it's starting to flatten out now that it's started to get into the range near the pivot. And
Yeah.
so, you know, this is an area where you want to get above, obviously, 305.5. That's a big spot for us today. Look at the resistance there yesterday. And if we come to that ledge again, Lee, and we fail that ledge again, that's gonna inform some bearish activity, I think.
Yes. So let's see if the rally stops up there and then they start selling it again.
Yeah, very, very important area to keep an eye on an intraday basis, everybody. So maybe put that on your list of things to keep an eye on. Do we trade above let's say 306 today on the spider specifically spies? We do above 306, things look a bit different here. Moves above 306, you'd like to see this blue line continue to pull away, kind of like the volume did yesterday. So there was a pretty good indication of weakness in the selling yesterday, with the volume just really, clearly exceeding the average with the selling day yesterday. So if you got that kind of a day where the candle or the blue and the orange look similar today, and you got a rally out of it, that would be very favorable.
Yeah, although there was some real selling yesterday, the open interest on the futures had a pretty good pop up.
Yeah.
So I think people were putting on shorts. little bit.
Well, I'll tell you, there's a lot of people talking about putting on shorts yesterday, and yet it felt like, one of those coin flip moves, right? Because every time we get the chance, we get any kind of significant breakdown, what we've been seeing is it just get bought right back up. The breakdowns are very limited in nature. They're not extended breakdowns. You might give up a 400, 500 on the Dow one day and then just take it all back the very next. So, you're getting a lot of price action. That much is true. So we'll keep an eye on it. I think that 200 day is important, but you know as well as I do that 297 ledge down here as well. Very important. So even if we just got short-term weakness and kind of meandered toward 297 on the spiders, we could still hang in there and be fine. But moves below 297 here in the spies, or about 20. Let's put the SPX back up so I can give you a number here.
Yes,
Yeah,
indeed. We have another
right
question
there.
on the CTI. Is it based on
Yeah,
Elliott waves? No, it's not. No, it has no relationship to it. Uh, uh, we have a question from Joe in California. Uh, can you flip through your graphs on your watch list without having to go back to the watch list each time to get the next stock? Well, you can
different
if you've
tool.
got yeah, you get the you go ahead, pull that up.
You talking about? I was thinking about the symbol hub.
Yeah, symbol hub. So you could type, so it'll remember the last ones you do, but it's not, and then you can flip through them on the bottom, but you do have to
Right.
you have to put in the symbol though to get the next little graph in there.
Yeah. So what it's holding is your last. I think it's like your last 8 or maybe your last 10 symbols. And so as they pop in down below, and I can have my history, I can just go back in and click it once and then it populates for me. So that's one way of doing it. I know some people who link the tool, but they don't use all the other functions, the news, the order ticket, they just kind of shrink it down and they use it exclusively for the carousel of symbols. So this is linked in with everything else that I'm doing by virtue of the link function here. And so if I wanted, I could, for example, I could slide up the bottom of my chart, and then I could put the tool symbol hub right below it, something like this, so you can visually see it. But I mean, eventually, you're doing really all the same thing, whether it's a double click from the watch list or what have you. But it'll maintain your history of like the last 10 stocks, basically here. Um, so that's one way of doing that. So, also always be on the lookout, everybody. We've got more in the way of Street Smart Edge, getting you comfortable, getting you a little bit up to date on it later this month. And often I think we offer about 2 times a month. You'll have an opportunity to attend a Fuel Your Trading with Street Smart Edge segment. I think I'm hosting one next week, perhaps. So I think that's Monday, if I'm not mistaken. But check that calendar, look for those. Those are good opportunities to get a little bit better acquainted with Edge as well. All right, Lee, what do you say we check out the Nasdaq here?
Yep.
Nice little tail there below the 10-day, basically buying up the low here from the 16th, 97.48 that day. Day's low was 98.10, so just looks like it was there. We missed it by quite a bit. I think the 20 has been a bunch more consistent than the 10 on the
Yeah,
composite.
look at the tail today, right to the 20.
Yeah, right on it. Now, divergent high with this last one. You did get a doji on this day, and we've worked it off. So some traders would tell you that this divergent high with the RSI is already taken into account by virtue of this pullback to the 20-day.
Mm-hmm.
Check it on an intraday here, see what kind of price action we've had. Another one. Pretty interestingly, didn't get to the pivot,
No.
Give it back already. That's a candle that didn't make a new high, and you're almost finished with this candle here, given the time. So you're about to get another candle. The likelihood is this looks like a fail at this point on the Nasdaq.
Yeah, and everything seems to be ran into resistance and it's
Yeah.
turning around.
Well, it was clear that there was enough buyers to step in and say, "Hey, let's try this out. Let's see what we can do here." And then
Right.
they thus far have just simply run to resistance. And so we'll see if that resistance, continues to be the ceiling for it certainly on a short-term basis. But it's absolutely something we're going to have to eyeball for the rest of the day today. Moves above the pivot, both in the S&P and the Nasdaq, would be the optimistic opportunity we've been looking for. Doesn't look like we're going to get it at this point, but I reserve judgment until we get nearer the close, needless to say.
Okay.
About the small caps, Lee.
Yeah.
I noticed that we had a bump in financials. I think it was easing on the Volcker rule. I saw as the headline, Lee.
I missed that one. I
I
don't
think
know.
that came out since we've actually been on.
Okay.
Um, so the financials picked up a little steam here since we've been on, and that might be giving you some lift to the Russell. But interesting tail there, Leaf, coincident with yesterday's low. Let me eliminate my trend line real quickly. Just make note of the fact, everybody, that we have this trend line in play. So the Russell holding its own here today on that trend line, but below the 20-day. The 50-day does loom beneath. And this one rallied nice support here, rallied into the pivot, and it is testing that pivot. And some traders would say failing based on this candle right here, right, Lee? The fact that it didn't make a higher high but made a lower low off of that move. So it didn't. This candle did not exceed the high on this one.
Right. This
That's
is
kind of that
if you've
first indication, right?
that's right. If you've taken our pivot points course, you know that the signal to sell short is when you have a test of the pivot, which was that green candle that went a little bit above it. Then you have the next 5-minute bar that does not make a higher high. And then the signal to short is when you exceed the low of, or I should say, take out the low of the candle that did not make the higher high. So you are getting that right now.
Indeed. Lee, the headline was in regards to the Volcker rule was bank stocks reversed course. They sent it higher due to the easing of the Volcker rule, which loosens the restrictions, which allow banks to more easily make investments into venture capital and similar funds. So it gives them a little bit more flexibility here. And then you had a pretty good rally, it looks like, in the individuals in that group. And you can see the financials here. Let's just do this real quick since we were
Yeah.
touching on it. If we take a look at the bottom here in the 5-minute bar, yeah, nice little pop higher, see. So, but I do find it interesting. Look at that. It ran
Yeah,
to the
right
gap
to the
high.
gap. Yeah.
And that's it. And then that's where
That's
it's
it.
paused.
Yep.
That's interesting. You want to see
Yeah.
that hold the pivot today, given that it ran through it so cleanly. All right, so now that's an interesting. See, that is an interesting setup there on the financials, Lee. You get good news as it's testing an important moving average like the 50-day, like that. That could be a spot where traders are going to look to dabble a little bit. Good area of
Yeah.
support in here too.
Just keep in mind the stress tests are coming out this
Yep.
afternoon after the close. So that's something you do have to be aware of.
Helpful to be paying attention to news always. News absolutely drives individuals and
Yeah.
groups.
Got a question from Robert in Connecticut. Why do sometimes we look at the QQQs and sometimes the
Hmm.
NASDAQ? Just depends on what we're seeing for the questions. If there's a lot of people asking about the Qs, we'll look at them. If they're not, we get the NASDAQ. But
Yeah, and just a reminder that the difference there is one's a cap weighted and one's equal weight, right? I mean the composite, um, The composite is not, it's not QQQ. That's the NDX. NDX and QQQ are basically the same, right? And so the
Right.
QQQ is reflective of the NASDAQ 100. If you want the compositely, it's much closer to 1Q, correct?
Yeah, the 1Q is the ETF that tracks the Nasdaq Composite.
Yeah. So they are a little different. Trend wise, not much different. The one thing we've learned of late, I'd say, is that the NDX, is leading, but largely because it's the owns the biggest, or the positions in it are the biggest ones that people fly to when it comes down to liquidity and safety. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Perceived liquidity and perceived safety. Excuse me.
Yeah. All right. Let's take a quick sector action, and we got to do a little
Yeah,
screen here.
you got it. So moving in a favorable manner, we just talked about the financials coming off that news headline, and energy doing well also. So there's your two pillars to the Russell move.
Yep.
However, energy does remain below the 50-day. It made another lower low today. This is not an ideal situation here, Lee. We are running into the 50 again, perhaps. I don't know how good I feel about this setup here from the long side. I think I'm very, very cautious on what I'm seeing here in energy with this last 2 days below the 50-day.
Yeah, we'll get more on the oil market from Mike Zaremski. I bet the EIA data yesterday wasn't bullish. It was a bigger build than people thought. It wasn't terrible,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm sure Mike will cover that a little bit more in charting the market.
Excellent.
Okay,
What else stands out here, Lee?
not much.
No, I
Let-
mean it's kind of a
let's see if the biotechs have given it back or not. They
okay.
had been on a tear.
Oops.
And
One more time.
let's look at the home builders based on
Sure.
KBH.
All right. Well, let's try and get the symbol in there. That'll help.
Yeah, it always helps to have the symbol.
There you go. There's a biotech breakout.
Yeah, so still holding the breakout level.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's flagging a little bit there.
Yeah, perhaps. I wonder where that. Let me add the 10-day here real quick. If I pull back on the 20, yeah, that's what you like to see. Getting into the breakout spot. Let's see what the big boys look like. Probably quite similar.
Looks like we're failing at the pivot. I'm just looking at the stuff at the top.
Yeah, look at that. Yeah, and then the IBB looks awfully close too. So now you're testing the breakout point, Lee.
Yeah, so here, I mean, this is giving you an entry.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a stop under yesterday's and today's low or the 10-day. But really, you'd like to see it start bouncing more.
I would agree with you. Looks like I mean, there's clearly some action in this area around 134 to 135. But yeah, I'd like to see it, hanging in there a little better here. Speaking of hanging in, you called it, Lee. Everything kind of rolling back over after testing resistance here.
Yeah.
All right, you said home builders. Let's check them real fast. Hanging in.
Hanging in spite of
10 days
KBH.
not relevant.
Well, yeah. The 200's flat, so it doesn't mean quite as much. But
Yeah, I'm just going to put in a horizontal support there.
yeah, I think
Just
that's what we
in
got to look
this
at.
right here.
Yeah.
I think that's what matters. What I don't like, though, Lee, is I don't like to see that tail today. You're up above the two, failing into it, coming lower. If that's a tail with a red candle beneath it, that's not going to be fantastic today. So we'll have to see
Yeah.
how that goes. Lee, what happened to our time?
I
Goodness
know.
gracious.
Darn it.
We got a couple minutes left. How do you want to play this?
Okay, just for fun, let's look in financials just to see what we have as A as B. knowing this is a really risky trade, probably if you're looking at a bank.
I think it would be risky as well, but I know that it would have been risky every other time you tried to buy up one of these dips in the last 2 months as well. So what are you going to say? All right, financials, A's and B's. What do you think about a moving average there, Lee? Yeah,
50.
of the 50. All right, so that's good. A lot of matches there, Lee. This is,
So yeah, so maybe you want to stay away from the banks in front of this stress test. So maybe we just look at like insurance and capital markets, maybe.
okay, let's see. Let's take a look at AIG real quick.
Well, pull back this horizontal support, the 50s right there.
That's an interesting horizontal support ledge, Lee. If it actually bounces here, doesn't get down to the 50, this is starting to look even stronger.
Yeah, yep. So you could easily set up a trade here on the long side.
Yeah, some traders would use the 50 as a ditch out spot for a stop order below the 50. Try not to use the 50 on the nose, of course. You said capital markets, huh?
Yeah.
Like
Let's look at
BlackRock?
yeah.
Oh, I got that wrong. That's BLK, not BK. Bank of New York Mellon.
Well, yeah, maybe we want to stay away from those. Just
Do that.
I
One
mean,
sec.
you pay your money, you take your chances if you know a lot about banking and you have an idea of how the
Mhm.
stress tests are going to go. Let's look at travelers.
Ah, yes.
Making a little bit of a triangle there. It looks like an
It is,
or
and
symmetrical, actually.
yeah, and just a reminder that these moves are continuation moves. So the trend off of the one thing we can say is we've seen higher lows. Sorry for my flies around like a ghost sometimes, I tell you. Incapable. Stop. All right. So here's what I was trying to draw. So if you're playing the triangle, you need to get out above basically this high on this day, 118 and a half.
Yeah.
Break the triangle there.
You could easily,
Traders
if
like
you
to
did,
buy at the bottom of the triangle though, right?
yeah, you could run up real quickly to the 200 if it broke out. If it broke down, you're looking at the
50
50
day.
day. Yeah. Okay, and with that, our time is up. What is coming up next?
Well, Lee, our next segment has how to utilize long call time spreads. That's with our senior derivative trading strategist, Nina Milovats. A little later today, Lee returns at 1 p.m. Eastern for charting the markets. Of course, that's a great conversation on the broader influence of the market, commodities, and that kind of thing with Mike Zaremski. He's our director of Schwab Futures here. And then again, reminder for those of you interested on Monday next week, I return with John Bullock. I'll be on for Fuel Your Trading with Street Smart Edge. That's at 2 p.m. Eastern Monday. So if you've been waiting for a chance to maybe dive deeper into Street Smart and learn more about the nuances and such, that's the one to attend and get your questions answered.